The Nintendo Switch 2 is finally upon us, and as such, I'd like to take a look back at the original Switch and all the games that made this generation stand out to me. I mean, this thing has been a part of my daily life ever since I was 16 years old. I've graduated high school, college, and grad school in that time, which is just crazy. So today, I'm presenting my list of the games that made the Switch one of my favorite consoles of all time. This isn't super comprehensive, I definitely didn't play every game that came out for this thing, but I wanted to hit on the most important bits to me. And feel free to leave a comment if there's a game you think that I should check out, or if one of my picks resonated with you.
You're going the wrong way!
What better way to start off this list than with a game that launched right alongside the Switch? An iteration on the developer's previous games going back to the Wii and Wii U, Fast RMX is a high-speed racing game where every motion matters. The first thing to note is the game's presentation. It's pretty impressive, especially for a Switch game where it's got to play comparably in handheld mode. The soundtrack also works perfectly for a futuristic racer like this, filled to the brim with hypnotic, pulsing techno. You've got a good selection of courses and modes. I personally like to put my time into beating developer times and time attack. The game absolutely has a learning curve. You'll be banging into walls and blowing yourself up on your first few runs, but when you race that perfect lap or eke out a hard-fought win or finally beat that dev time, it's super satisfying. A great start for indies on Switch.
Yes, Uni's the boss.
The Switch is where the Xenoblade Chronicles series really hit the mainstream, and for good reason. I have my gripes with Xenoblade 2. Some of the more anime-esque tropes really started to affect my enjoyment of an otherwise pretty good game, but Xenoblade 3 takes all of the cool bits and pieces and grounds them in a cast of characters who actually sort of behave like people. I'll admit, I got pretty emotionally invested in the protagonists and their relationships. The gameplay is more active than your typical JRPG, since your position relative to the enemy will influence how strong attacks are, and you can time out your button presses to create combos. However, this game generally feels like it's being limited by the hardware it's on. There are some genuinely cool set pieces that get muddled under choppy performance and low resolutions, which is likely because of how much is going on screen at once. This is even felt in battles. Show gameplay of Xenoblade 3 to anyone who isn't familiar and ask them to parse out what's going on. I imagine they'd probably get very confused. Still, fun game with a great world and lots of exciting things going on. I cut class my senior year of high school to play this game on launch day. What do you want me to say about Smash Ultimate? It's the greatest gaming crossover of all time. Every character added felt like it was done out of a sense of love for the medium of video games as a whole. Truly a game you could play endlessly, although it's not my favorite Smash game. That title will always go to Melee because that game plays buttery smooth, and Brawl will always have the better single-player campaign. I personally would have traded out the Spirits mode for another Subspace Emissary and some trophies, but hey, being the second best Smash game still puts you head and shoulders above most games ever released, so I digress. Still an essential part of the Switch's catalog, and a true cultural event in the gaming space. I think we all vividly remember the global situation surrounding the release of Animal Crossing New Horizons. Remember when you couldn't say the words COVID-19 on YouTube without getting flagged? Well, I ended up getting COVID pretty much right when it hit the United States in March of 2020. Yet I still hauled my sick ass out of bed every morning to check in on my town. I can claim that previous games in the series did certain things better, and they did. But my playtime doesn't lie, this game took me for a ride. I'll go years without playing, but eventually the itch will need scratching, and I'll just reset my whole island and commit the next month of my life towards paying Tom Nook his dues. You may have more control over your town than ever before, and for some that might take away some of the charm of Animal Crossing, but as someone who has been playing since the very first entry on the GameCube, I can still confidently say that the spirit of the series is alive and well, even today. I love Kirby, the games and the little fella himself. Been playing ever since I was a wee lad. The games may be too easy for some, but for me, it's nice every now and again having a more laid-back experience that just wants to give you a nice hug rather than punch you in the groin. Kirby and the Forgotten Land does a wonderful job of adapting everything I love about Kirby into a true 3D platformer for the first time in the series' history. If nothing else convinces you, just know that I 100% completed this game not once, but twice. And you know what? That third file is looking more and more appetizing by the day. A game this charming should be downright criminal. The Switch was where Fire Emblem's gameplay finally clicked for me. I'll admit, I played through Awakening and Fates, but mostly just built up my favorite characters with the infinite XP you could get through grinding. I wasn't really engaging with the mechanics, no pun intended. But then came Three Houses and I finally put 2 and 2 together. I'll be honest, I do not want to go back and play Three Houses again. I enjoyed my time with it and really got into the story and characters, but 4 playthroughs to see everything the game has to offer is asking a bit much, especially for a game so bloated with filler nonsense at the monastery. Engage, on the other hand, has much better gameplay, but you might as well skip the story, in my opinion. It gets between you and the good stuff. Three Houses has a top 3 story in the series, Engage has top 3 gameplay. It's hard to recommend one over the other because they each come with such large caveats, but together, they really help deepen my appreciation for what is now one of my favorite series of games ever made. Just like with Fire Emblem, the Switch was where I finally became a real gamer and fully experienced Pikmin for the first time. I played the first game on the GameCube when I was super young, but I couldn't beat it because I got too sad when any of my Pikmin died. Now I'm an evil adult though, so I'm okay with it most of the time. Pikmin 4 is a lovingly crafted experience, allowing you to view the world from the perspective of an insect-sized person, exploring the environments, collecting treasure, saving castaways alongside one of the best companion characters Nintendo has ever designed, plus a sizable post-game, and you have, alongside Kirby, one of the company's most charming series, with a feel all its own. Balatro is like poker, except you get to cheat, which is already an ingenious idea for a video game. A roguelike deck-building game where you try to score as many chips as possible by altering a standard deck of cards, adding or removing suits, enhancing your hands, and employing jokers that can dramatically change how you play. This is the newest game on my list here today, and for good reason. It's easily the most addictive. Poker hands are already such ubiquitous knowledge that it's hard to not recommend Balatro to anyone who already knows how to play. For fuck's sake, I even got my dad to try it. Sometimes I'll just put it on the TV and walk on the treadmill with a Joy-Con in each hand, and let me tell you, getting 10,000 steps a day has never been easier. I experienced Final Fantasy VI, VII, and VIII each for the first time on Switch, but those are all old-ass games being ported up with minimal enhancements, so I don't really count them. However, THEATRHYTHM Final Bar Line is a Switch and PlayStation 4 exclusive and takes its place on today's list. Rhythm games live and die by the songs they have available, and luckily for us, this game features some of the greatest music video games have to offer, taken from every main game in the Final Fantasy series, plus spin-offs and remixes, essentially creating musical vignettes of each game's story. Even if you don't like Final Fantasy, the music here is sublime. And the rhythm gameplay is intuitive and fun, so that's a plus too. Bomb Rush Cyberfunk has it all. Stylized visuals reflecting an era of early 3D gaming that I'm nostalgic for, a bumping soundtrack featuring so many different artists, including Hideki Naganuma himself of Jet Set Radio fame, a fun story full of twists and turns, and movement that makes exploring New Amsterdam addictive in its own right. Arguably one of my favorite games of all time at this point. Please support the developers at Team Reptile. I can tell that this was a project made out of love, not just for Jet Set Radio, but for music and for graffiti as an art form.
Oh my god!
Look, I know I said I don't want to include ports, and if you're being conservative with the definition, this is absolutely a port of Mario Kart 8 on the Wii U, but considering how much content was added after the game came to Switch, essentially doubling the amount of courses, we can't ignore this one. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is, to put it simply, the ultimate Mario Kart game. 96 tracks counting DLC, dozens of characters, kart customization, a functional battle mode. There's a reason why it's become one of the best-selling games of all time. It really is just that good. With Mario Kart World releasing the day that this video goes live, I'll be interested to see how the two games can coexist, since they're obviously going for very different themes and design directions. But Mario Kart 8 Deluxe will always hold a special place in my heart for connecting my friends and I even after we all moved across the country. We'd hold competitive league nights and everything.
Die, monster! You don't belong in this world.
Vampire Survivors is a game played with 0 buttons. Alright, well technically you need a few buttons to operate the menus, but when you're actually playing, 0 buttons pressed. Just the control stick is all you need. With this simplicity comes a massive amount of variety in terms of weapons and upgrades, making each 30-minute run feel fresh and unique. So many characters to unlock, challenges to try, achievements to attain. This is the perfect game to lie back and chip away at over time, fitting for the Switch's portable nature. What better way to end this video than where we began, the Switch's launch. I tried, I really did, but I can't stop myself from talking about Breath of the Wild some more. I've gone on record a few times and said that it's my favorite game ever made, and I think that's because it caters so specifically to the exact type of gamer that I am. Even before Breath of the Wild existed, when I played open world games like Skyrim or Grand Theft Auto, progressing the main story was the last thing on my mind. I just wander off in a random direction and make my own adventure, and Breath of the Wild was the first game that felt like it actively rewarded me for doing so. It's more than just a game, it's a world lovingly crafted with secrets and monsters around every corner, a world lush with nature and artifacts of a civilization that had been destroyed by some calamity, a world that no two people will take the same journey through. I can only name a few games that I've played over the last 24 years that have given me such a strong sense of freedom like Breath of the Wild has, and this game came along at just the right time in my life where I was ready for it. Tears of the Kingdom is one of them, but it builds off the bones of its predecessor, which came first and broke that ground, so this spot will always belong to Breath of the Wild for me. I hope you enjoyed both this video and the Switch generation as a whole if you partook. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to go play Mario Kart World and petition Nintendo to put Melee on NSO. But between you and me, I'm not really getting my hopes up.